Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Miles' Trial. Today is day 29 of the MILESGUO trial. Just to do a simple recap, Miles is currently facing trial at the Southern District Court of New York, and he's facing 12 financial charges and also 1 count of RICO. And Miles has never pled guilty to any of these charges. And I'm your host, Saturn, for today. Yesterday, we actually am still continuing with the Miles' witnesses, and today we actually were able to get through to the final pretty much the final 2 of Miles' witnesses, as we have discussed yesterday. One of which is Lian Li, who is a member of the Chief Action Italy team, and also the other witness is George Higginbotham, who is a part of the repatriation efforts of the CCP in the United States to lobby the U.S. government back a couple years back to repatriate Miles back to the CCP, back to China. And this is where it gets pretty interesting, because right now we have already have received notice that George Higginbotham has been directly examined by the Miles' legal team prior to the 2:30 break in the afternoon today. So with that being said, let us bring on our guests for today, Jackson and Feather. It's good to have you guys back, Jackson and Feather.
Hi, Saturn.
What's
Hi,
going on,
everyone.
everybody? We are back, day 29.
Right, and again, before we dive into the contents, because I know Higginbotham is probably a very good witness, a witness that we're looking forward to, because of the information that he would testify to in regards to the efforts of the CCP to influence certain individuals to basically conspire to lobby MILESGUO back to China. So before that, I think there was another witness from yesterday, by the name of Scott, that we didn't really get to touch upon too much, just because the show ended actually before the trial ended yesterday. So let us begin with that witness. I think he is witness number 7. So take it away, Jackson. Do you want to introduce this witness again, and we can go right into some of the arguments they were trying to build through this witness.
Okay, so witness number 7. His name is Gerald Barnett. He also goes by Scott. He is one of the security solutions expert that was working alongside Mr. Miles. His background is NYPD as well as military, and he was retired from both of those positions due to injuries that he had on the job. But anywho, he started his company, which is security solutions, or Geo Security Solutions. But with that being said, he works with celebrities, high net worth individuals, you name it, to essentially protect them, but with that being said, he started with Mr. Miles back in 2022, if my notes is correct, and he essentially is somebody that was brought on that was securing Mr. Miles' premise, his his living spaces, and he was the one that's also helping out with like transportation, whatnot. He's very hands-on, very involved. Yep.
I believe he started working with Mr. Miles a little bit before the pandemic, because there was a question asked, what happened? Did your work and your role as a security changed after the pandemic? And he said yes. He was driving Miles to his resident to another from Connecticut, like to New Jersey or to Share Netherlands. So like his job kind of changed, and then and the goal changed too. It's not only security, also with the pandemic being present, and it's a lot of things changed for them. And then we said he was subpoenaed by the Miles legal team, like SID,
to appear in court to testify.
Yes, that's right. And he was also approached by government before in April 11th, 2024, regarding him testify on behalf of the government.
So that's actually right before the trial would take place, because as we know, the trial took place towards the end of May.
Yes.
Yep. And I actually have my notes here. A little bit of a correction is that I started with the Golden Springs back in October 2020. So he's somebody that had extensive number of years of experience working with Mr. Miles, and not just him, but the
related entities.
And then he currently works for Mei Guo, which is daughter of Miles, and he's still working. And then he said this is his biggest client at the moment, and ever. And let's see. So it was asked, how do you call Mr. MILESGUO? He calls her sir, principal, or in text it's a P for principal, and boss. And interesting question Sabrina asked, who came up with the call boss?
Right.
Who came up to call him boss? And he said, I think it's a common thing, when you to call someone boss, that if I'm protecting them, if I'm working for them, I would just spontaneously call them boss. And then Sabrina said, if you're protecting me, would you call me boss? And he said, yes, I would. This refers to what Karen Menstrello's testimony in court, because in court,
one of the government's witnesses.
One of the government's witness a couple weeks ago, when she was testifying in court, she referred Miles as boss still, when after she stops working for him for years, and then at the court, and she still calls him boss. And then when he said about he mentions Miles, he calls him boss instead of MILESGUO, right? And then this is just there's no specialty, there's no any other meaning behind this call sign, right?
It's just common knowledge if working for a client.
Yeah. And he provides security for Sherry Netherland. When he was asked about
Sherry Netherland is the hotel that Miles is residing at
in Manhattan.
In Manhattan, yes.
And he talked about the two BMWs, the cars that were purchased by his company, but it's funding from HCHK to drive Mr. Guo, Miles, and sometimes Yvette Wang, and they transfer them to events with the cars, such as NFSC events, some H-Coin events, drive them to Mawa, and some events in Mawa as well. So when he was asked, does Miles know how to drive? And then he said he only see him drive once around a property, never on the road before. And then he knows that he has a Hong Kong driver license.
But not a U.S. one.
Not a U.S. one. Well, it was not found anywhere, right? Either. So do you want to add anything regarding to the cars and the vehicles?
Yeah, when it comes to cars, it's just that I think the government, the point that they're trying to really come across is like, why? What's all this for? And whose name was it under? Who used it? Who didn't use it? Things of that nature. Because we also know that there's Liberty, right? The yacht.
Liberty, the yacht. Yes.
Yeah. And then there's the motorcycle, which, of course, you need a license to ride it. Not anybody can just hop on a motorcycle.
A motorcycle license, in fact, it's a different license, as we know.
Oh yeah, for sure. So a lot of those questions, where were they parked, for example? Because they were trying to make it sound like the funds that purchased these vehicles were used for personal reasons, Mr. Miles, right, the families, this person, that person, but indeed we know that it's for music videos, for G Club members, for example, for future references. So that's something to add.
For example, specific example were for the boat or the yacht Liberty, that the government keeps bringing up and showing pictures of the boat. They were showing text exchange of who picked the font of the boat. Well, Miss Miles, you can see that Miles and I believe it's Gladys, they exchanged and discussed which font to pick for the boat. And according to this security guard, Scott, this boat, Liberty, is not very seaworthy. And after they send it back, and also fellow fighters used the boat mostly. Yeah.
Also, he testified in court that there are actually some of the fellow fighters who have used the boat as well.
Yes.
Okay,
it's for commercial purpose, not personal.
So that's something new, as we know. When one of the government's witnesses testified, the CEO of G Clubs, I don't think she was aware of this fact that there are fellow fighters who have boarded this boat Liberty. So this is something that's pretty cool. That showed up, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then they talk about the home base of NFSA Mawa, of him working as a managing member in the security. Let me see here.
Managing member or the manager? Because
what
I heard
that was the misconception that was cleared up to date in court. Because yesterday and today, one thing that we learned is that there was a bit of a mistake on the language. For example, he had the signatory rights to sign off on certain things for the property, but he is not an owner of the property. Okay. So
I believe, yes. I believe he also, to his understanding, he thought he was a manager. But on paper, there is a manager and also the managing members. So he's one of the managing members. So I believe when a government, this is also something that brought up in today's trial prior the court started, is that he has a misunderstood what's been said on the paper, and then he testified accordingly. And the government allows this mistake of him testify with this mistake of understanding. So there's something that was cleared up, that it was actually managing member.
So
I think that was good to clear it up, just because while their titles are similar, it's different roles and different responsibilities, correct?
The legal ramification responsibilities is completely different. I mean, so when we're talking about a manager, we're talking about the manager of the LLC, the Torres Fund that owned MAWA. Right. So that's a distinguishing factor we want to make when we're talking about manager. He's not a manager of like a restaurant or anything, right? So with that being said, that's the thing we had to clear up today. And like Feather was saying, the government was trying to build on the language,
right?
The wordplay a little bit. And today, I'm glad, we definitely cleared that up.
Let me just go through a little bit about, because today they continued some of the direct examination for this witness, and then the cross started after. So I think before we can start about today's Scott's testimony, we can talk about a little bit on what happened right before the court started. What do you think?
I think we can also do that.
Okay. So the judge and attorneys are putting up this instruction papers for the jury charge, so for the jury to read, including legal instructions and some of the facts, or some just like the guidance and all that for deliberation. And they were doing some corrections and revisions, and then afterwards, they talk about the George Higginbotham's testimony, which is defense team's last witness. There's limited questions that can only be asked regarding to his work at the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and only today's 9th, right? Okay,
correct.
Well, I'm good.
9th.
Okay, we're on the right notes. And established the nature of his work, and he was an attorney, not a prosecutor at DOJ. And just a second.
So for example, I'll pick it up a little bit. Is before the court officially started with the questioning and stuff, we did housekeeping, of course. The government and the defense wanted to kind of go over. The government wanted to make a point that what questions were limited in terms of what they can ask, and of George Higginbotham, which is the 9th witness today,
right?
And relating to the DOJ.
There has been a lot of discussions regarding his testimony as well.
So
I think the idea of that really is the fact that this witness used to be a member of the DOJ, as you guys said, DOJ attorney. So that is the reason why I believe they are making sure that whatever he testifies to is it's only pertains to certain elements of the trial.
Right.
The judge.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Let me go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the government wanted to make a point to distinguish that the actions that George Higginbotham was taking at the time, when he was, he pleaded guilty, right, to the count. But with that being said, is to distinguish him away from the department. But anywho, with that being said, the judge, it's what is appropriate, what's not appropriate in terms of the questioning and stuff. And as we know, which we'll get to as we get to the 9th witness today, it is very respectful. They did what they needed to do. The judge actually said in court that this is an extraordinarily special circumstance, right, with a DOJ attorney being involved. She even said in court, due to his action of the lack of patriotism, right, towards his country, the United States, the lack of allegiance to his oath, right, to stand for America.
For sure. She said it's very extraordinary and unusual for an individual who's an attorney working at a DOJ who get himself involved in the scandalous scheme, lack of patriotism and allegiance, that she's also afraid that the jury would think that his conduct would affect the rest of DOJ. So this is the why, the whole limiting testimony is about.
Yeah.
But she said that in court, like after her hearing about this person, this individual, and what he's done, and he plead guilty, right?
Yep.
And afterwards,
After that, there are two more points. One is with witness E. They really wanted to clear up. What the government wanted to do was to say that, because we know what happened to him, right? He was the forced, the falsely filing or being coerced by the CCP at the time, because he went through the ordeal, right, with MSS overseas in China, and then he had to file the false complaint and everything else, and they didn't want the defense to bring this up in court in closing. They already game planned for the closing, right?
Right.
To say, you can't generalize to say, everybody was, coerced or whatnot. So you can only talk about a specific individual and their experience and this thing, that thing, who was testified in court, who was not testified, and things of that nature. So that's something that they had to clear up. And outside of that, of course, going over closing statements. Let me take a look.
Yeah, because to let the viewers know, we are getting very close to both legal teams making their closing statements. And this witness, just to clarify one more time for the viewers, this witness was instructed by the MSS of the Chinese Communist Party to file a false report against MILESGUO in China, and he was arrested and detained and interrogated for investing with Miles.
Yeah.
So that is a reason why I think it gives a really good idea of what will happen if you decide to support Miles or you decide to invest in some of the related entities. So I think that just to clarify that for the viewers.
But
it's
really
been a few episodes.
Yeah, it really countered out, because here's the deal. Like with George Higginbotham, the ninth witness. And we'll get to it, but just a little bit of a foreshadow is that they didn't want the defense to essentially say that individuals were being coerced to undermine Mr. Miles to extradite him, right? But when George Higginbotham came, the facts are the facts. Everybody can go to the transcript, and we'll get to it. Is that he said in court. We'll get to when the time comes.
Yeah.
It's very
so why don't we do this, since it's already almost 20 minutes into the show?
Okay.
I think what we can do is, I guess, wrap up on this the seventh witness.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we can move on to the eighth one. The eighth one, I do know it is kind of a little bit connected, because there's also testimonies regarding the Mawa home base.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think what we can do is, like I said, wrap up on the seventh, see if there's any main things I think that he testified to that were interesting, because I do know there was he testified to something about how like the home base was chosen, right? Because I think it was mentioned that it has to fit like over 1,000 people, and then the purpose was really to help those people in need of difficulties that's faced during the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. Speaking about the home base Mawa in New Jersey, is that the question was to the witness is that was this surprising to you that Mr. Miles actually bought this property, right? Mawa, the property. And he says, yeah, it's because Mr. Miles, I believe we mentioned a little bit yesterday, is that this home base, Mawa, 12 acres, but we saw the picture today too. It's surrounded by a neighborhood, right? It's private, but it's not super private, right? And Mr. Miles, as we know, is a very private individual. And so the distinguishing factor really is to say that the home base is more for commercial purposes and not for personal purposes.
Right.
Okay, and it was made very clear in court that is actually made for commercial purposes, because there were lunar celebrations, right? We had the June 4th, 3rd anniversary there, so that was made very clear in court.
Yeah, and he also just testified about, what he's seen at the 3 Columbus Circle when he was there, and he testified about the list of vehicles.
Like, for example, the Legos, right? The gardening. He's like, there's a garden in Mawa, right?
Right.
And Mrs. Guo loves gardening, right? Yeah, okay, but and then so when the redirect came, is like, how big was the garden, right? It could feed like 20, 30, 40, 50 people, right? Like, so as we know, it's very commercialized, right? It's not for personal thing. I mean, Legos, like, just because there's Mr. and Mrs. Guo love playing with Legos, for example, and there's a set of Legos at Mawa, how can you make that distinguishing factor that this is a private, this facility is for private use versus anything else, right? So
that's a little bit of a reach.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great word to use.
Yeah, I remember being there myself, in the base last year at June 4th. You can see, I see those gardens and I didn't see vegetables, but I see a lot of flowers, and I've heard this is a Mrs. Guo's flower garden.
Yeah, her personal touch on the property.
Yes.
Is a great way to put it,
Yeah. And then there's just a little bit of everything, the tourist fund, bank records, just a little touch on everything. They asked about his views on CCP, and he said based on what he read and he heard, he doesn't agree on the principle of oppressing people and how they treat people, like their philosophy of how to treat people. And then it was asked, because he raised this GoFundMe. I'm not sure that what was it for.
It was for the trial. It was for his legal defense.
Right, for the bankruptcy case. I believe.
I'm not sure if that was brought up, but it was for for legal reasons.
Yes.
Yeah, it's for legal. It's to pay some of his legal fees.
Okay.
Yeah.
He got people donating for him on the web through the website, and he isn't exactly sure who they are, right? The question was asked. They're trying the government trying to force him or to paint this picture of, everyone donate, give you money. They're giving you money because you are working as security for NFSC, for Mr. Guo, for etc., and that you're receiving money from people.
And the people are anti-CCP.
The people anti-CCP, the people are fellow fighters, and etc. He's receiving money. It just doesn't sound good, right? It's like, why you have a larger amount of inflow to your account, blah blah blah. And then Sabrina asked on redirect. Would there be something wrong if someone support your philosophy of being anti-CCP, and of course it's been sustained. And no one else asked for a refund for those donations. And he said if the action is legal, he would definitely support the action of taking down the CCP. Yes.
Right, and I think that's a common theme every time when someone is asked on their views of the CCP. Throughout the trial, there has not been one CCP supporter. I think that is
from
very
both
interesting
sides,
thing to
from
point
the
out
government
too.
sides, from both sides.
Yeah.
All the witnesses are saying, hey, anti-CCP, anti-CCP.
Right, because I think it's undeniable that the CCP is a evil and horrible regime based on some of their actions, even to this day. So I think that is something that no one is able to come right out and say they support the CCP. I don't think anybody would do that based on the number of atrocities they have committed over the years. Is that like the last couple of things for this witness?
Yes.
Or is there,
yes.
Okay.
That's like the last questions asking for.
I see.
This witness.
Yeah. So let us get to the next witness. I think this witness also has brought on some very interesting evidences, right? So Jackson, do you want to introduce this witness, like their background and also what some of the arguments that they're trying to build
For Leanne.
Yes.
Okay. So the 8th witness, her name is Leanne Lee, L.I., and she is one of the I would suppose she was a supporter of Mr. Miles from, I believe, because she had a YouTube channel. She was doing a lot of the volunteering, like making videos and translations and whatnot. And then from there, step by step, she eventually started working for Mr. Miles. At the time, she was a realtor. So that's where the expertise came in, where, hey, can you help us, for example, look into and shop for some properties, right? I mean, she was a part of the G Fashion LA at the time, right? Before G Fashion LA was shut down. And let me take a look at my notes to make sure.
Yeah, I'll just pick up on that. So
Okay.
she did she made videos on her by herself, like on her. She wasn't doing any volunteer work, right? And then I think she was added to the group chat. She was contacted by Mr. Miles, and then she was added to this WhatsApp group chat. And then with the people who take down the CCP using his phone. And then this group chat grew like bigger and bigger into hundreds of people. They exchange infos. They talk about taboos in China. You know, for example, June the 4th massacre in Tiananmen, organ harvesting and stuff. You know, so at that time she was not working for G Fashion. She was not employed. She was working as real estate. Okay, and then she started working for the movement. She translated some important part of Mao's video and put subtitles on, and she was supporting NFSC. She was coordinator for NFSC for videos, manufacturing and manufacturing. No, for videos and stuff. And they did this launch, and she was there coordinating as well, I believe. And then she was offered a job at G Fashion LA. So she started with supporting behind the scene, and then to involving herself a little bit more and more and more, then getting to the point where she got offered a job at the G Fashion LA, and she moved there, to work to be the CEO of G Fashion LA. Along with 2 other people on her team. And then they hired while they were in LA, they were trying to find an office. And also they hire people like designers, graphic designers, a tech pack, legal teams, HRs, merchandisers, fabric managers, and etc. for G Fashion LA, right?
Yeah, she originally moved from Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then she was brought to Los Angeles. She lived on Melrose at the time, to essentially get herself involved, with G Fashion LA. Like Feather said, she was working with 2 other people that. Camille Hao Tian, for example, the executive assistant, the CEO of G Fashion is Camille.
No, he's the CEO. Camille is the assistant, CEO assistant.
Yes. Okay. So essentially, she was. You can tell. So they were going through her credentials a little bit, her background a little bit, and from there they went into
CTO.
Correct. Yeah, the CTO.
Right.
Yeah.
And then after, in 2021 May, G Fashion LA got shut down, and she moved back to Vancouver. And this is when she started looking for properties for NFSC for Miles.
Options for the home base.
Yeah, for the home base. She's starting because she's a real estate agent, right? That's her work, and she had a degree in business. She went to senior university as I did, so that's something really interesting. And she's looking for base for NFSC. She's done Google research and websites. She uses Zillow.
So essentially, she did her research.
Yeah.
And then she created PowerPoints. And then she presented it to the everybody to see which one would be the most fitting.
Yeah, so it's called deck. It's a PPT for properties. Something that real estate agent would prepare for their clients. Yeah. So there's properties in LA, in Texas, in Connecticut, in Colorado, in Hawaii, and in islands all around. Mostly in the United States. The property she looked for. Okay, and she shared this deck with Miles only, and this one property, she didn't physically go visit them, and because of pandemic, and she shared one deck with Miles. It's a Darlington Mawa. So this is the
one that eventually ended up being the home base.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let me see here. Yeah, she did a lot of research, and she also found other information, history, and all the pictures on the internet, and sent it to Miles.
Yeah. I mean, the questioning really painted a picture that, hey, guess what? It wasn't just Mawa. There were a lot of research and homework that was done to find this home base, right, for commercial purposes. Again, So that really highlighted all the different places because they talked about, like Feather said, California, Texas, Hawaii, and all kinds of other places that we had talked about. We had addresses. It wasn't, a fake deal. Like we had the actual deck, the PowerPoint of these locations.
Another thing I think that it's why this piece of evidence actually, I think in my opinion, very, very interesting, and it kind of really builds on the fact that it is commercial, is the fact that if say you want to purchase a private property, you would make the decision, right? You pretty much just go ahead and find whatever place you think will be best. But in this case, there was clearly a sufficient amount of research was done to pick the place. So for that to be the case, I think that's why it made it commercial, and rather than a personal thing, because at that point you're considering on many different factors and variables that matches the description and the requirements for what you would need it to be if you were to use it for a commercial purpose. If say it's for a personal purpose, then only one person would really know it best, and knowing how private Miles is, only he and his family would know what place it is, right? It wouldn't be through this personal. It wouldn't be through this witness that they have done the research on so many properties to decide on one. The fact that another individual.
What's interesting, Saturn, I'll say this, is that they looked at a property that was, I believe, in Texas or California. It was all land. Okay, Mr. Miles is not going to live on bare land, right?
Oh, so some of it just land is not property, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like. So we saw a bunch of different options, and that's one of the things she did.
So likely that maybe it's even possible that they were thinking of just buying land and building properly on top of it that would match some of their
visions for the base.
Well, that's just something I'm throwing it out there. I don't think that was mentioned in court, but that's what it would seem like if you're buying empty stretch of land.
Right. I mean, we saw huge stretches of land. It was a beautiful place, the scenery and everything. So definitely that made a lot of sense.
And then shortly after, she went to Milan, Italy, to audit G Fashion. So she's there meeting the G Fashion team in Milan. There's a seven-ish people there. She audits the book for G Fashion, financials, vendors list. She visited the factories. There's over 10 factories in Milan making clothes for G Fashion. So there's some factory that she's not satisfied with, and she's doing the auditing, right, to see if it's meet the standards on the book.
Right.
So it did not. There's one factory, an agent that they're not satisfied with, and then she stopped paying all the payments, and they outsourced the work.
So I'll explain a little bit on this part. Is that there are 10 factories that was doing work for G Fashion. And she has said that 9 of them were satisfactory, and one of them she found that was actually an agent, not a factory. So that the agent was outsourcing the work to other places, and of course, as we know, Mr. Miles, and we have very high standards, right? So we want everything to be done. We don't want people to outsource work into different places and have quality issues and whatnot. So, anyways, so this goes to show you that work is being done. And we have quality control, of course. It's not just it's not made in China, for example. But with that being said, she did an audit. She went around all the factories. Like Father was saying, there were 7 full-time people working for in Milan. And
And then they were showing like that evidence a video of their shooting. So in like a studio setting with the cameras and the models.
The photography.
Yes.
They're getting ready to launch.
They're ready to launch for a new season, for example, and it was organized the shoot with G Fashion team and the CEO of G Fashion, this lady, Lian Li. There's designers, e-commerce manager there, and the logistics. There's a bunch of people working as a team together in Milan for G Fashion, and then they were showing a picture of John Legend wearing a G Fashion silk Buddha collection jacket on one of the music show. Music show like Voice of America, for example. I think that was the one, but. Also talk about
Voice
music.
of America?
Voice of America?
No. Oh, for one of the music shows,
Oh,
not Voice
yeah.
of America.
Oh, no, Voice of America.
Not Voice of
A
America.
music show, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have, and then they ask question about the G music, to make anti-CCP music, and her role, she played a role in there too, is to coordinate between Miles and Hollywood producers, as well as the Chinese songwriters team like Tang Ping and William Wang. They made the song "The Hero," which has been played several times in court. And she mentioned that she explains that the song is about the Mongolian people and CCP trying to oppress the culture, and the song was to honor them and for them to be fighting and standing up for the culture, and etc. All this is to show, because she was personally involved in a lot of evidence being shown to court. That's also being present by the government. This is just to show this person actually, was a coordinator. She actually involved and in each of those things, and then they're here to prove that this is the truth. Yeah.
Right, and I think this also, I guess, gives another look on the G series, right? Because I think right before then we only really get to see some of the more financial aspects of the G series, where we talk about the G clubs or the Himalaya Exchange. This time we're looking at some of the other G series entities like G Fashion, G Music. How how we can more clearly visualize the vision for taking down the CCP and going against this totalitarian regime. And it's through art. I think a lot of art is very expressive, so it does show very clearly about how how we are able to use the G series to go against the CCP, because the other means, let's say G clubs, GTV, Himalaya Exchange, like those means are a little bit, sometimes they might be a little bit more complicated, because they have more so to do with and you would kind of need background knowledge on a certain area of expertise to be able to really understand the design of things, why they're set up in a certain way, and how we are able to go against the CCP by through these entities.
Right.
And I think it's also a breath of fresh air for the jury members.
For sure.
And she was, for each question during the cross-examination by the government, she was asked, for example, what does G stand for G Fashion? What does G stand for G News? What does G stand for G Club, G Series? And she said for God and goodness. So, and then every single time the Miss Murray from government would ask her, what does G stand for every single thing. And at the end, it was shown to her a NFSC flag, with the 7-point star, the one behind me. He was asked, there's 7 points, and then she said, it does this. They asked her, does this means, what does this mean? And she said, it's a belief star. It represents, do you want to?
Yeah, it's from like Taoism. It's way back then. So it's a connection to a higher, I guess, the universe. And so they went over all of that. I mean, this really goes to show you, after sitting the trial for all these weeks, and then now talking about the G Music, the G Fashion, with the base, right, the home base of Mawa, it really goes to show you that we have a huge community of people. The supporters that believe in the same mission, the same belief of taking down the CCP and exposing the things that they have done. It's not just Mr. MILESGUO. We're also on the front line now. We have, I mean, I can't begin to tell everybody how many people we have that's, in our community, that's behind the scenes, that's actively, supporting the cause.
Yes, and she was asked, the 7 star, does it mean brother 7? Do you know if Miles is the 7th brother, seventh brother? And she said yes. And does it mean that this represents him? Because he's 7th brother, and she's like, no. And then she asked, do you want to help him, right? She said yes, and that's it. But Sabrina right away said, if you know that Miles is the 27th brother of the family, so would there be a 27 star, 27 points on the star, And then she was asked, but would you lie for Miles under oath? That's the thing, This is what you said. We're supporters, and she's supporting him, but doesn't mean that she can lie for him or just to help him.
Right.
Yep.
Because again, when they're under oath, they have to tell the truth.
Yeah.
I think, well, with that being said, actually, before we go into the next witness, because I think we're pretty much wrapped up with this one.
Yeah.
So before we do talk about the next witness, I do want to let the viewers know where you can find more information about this trial. We do have an account on X called NFSE Speak. We will be posting live updates here, and also our official Getter account at NFSE Speaks. And also, we will be having this show for those viewers who do not have X or Getter. It is live every day. It is live pretty much every day from 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And every day that the trial ends, once we get our hands on the transcript, we will be uploading that to our official website at nfseofficial.com. And now, with that being said, I actually do have just received another piece of information in regards to the trial, and is that the 9th witness actually have just finished being cross-examined, and we're finished with this witness as well.
Wow.
So the judge actually just continued to, go over some more of the laws and regulations to the jury members. So I think we're getting very close to the end of the trial now. Tomorrow, I think we would be pretty much be looking at the start of the closing statements from both legal teams. So I think with that being said, we have been very, very eager to get into discussing this 9th witness.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's jump right in. I think at this point, this witness needs no further introduction. His name is George Higginbotham, who has been a part of a conspiracy to lobby the U.S. government to repatriate MILESGUO, and he is a former DOJ attorney. So I think let us get started. And I know his testimony was probably very short and sweet because he already pled guilty. So we probably stuck to a number of truths about what happened, and also because of the limitation on the way we can question him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Just right away at the start, the question was that were you employed by DOJ? And then yes, from August 2016 to 2019, why it was ended in 2019? He said it's been terminated due to the conspiracy and an influence scheme, right? Right away, very straightforward. And when they're preparing this testimony for the defense team, they did not speak to any of the lawyers directly. They did not see any of the lawyers prior today, and did not talk to any of them. They did not meet Miles before today. So everything is contact through their attorneys. So his lawyers and Miles's lawyers. And the reason why he came to testify because he received a subpoena by the defense legal team. Yes, so he pleaded guilty for the crime he committed, the conspiracy to make false statement. Right? Is that right?
November 2018.
In the
which is at this, he was still employed by the DOJ at the time. Yep. So essentially, I mean, they went over why was his employment, terminated, for example, and then it was due to him, being involved in this quote unquote conspiracy theory of influencing, U.S. government officials and whatnots to repatriate Mr. MILESGUO, which is the defendant in this case.
Yeah, so they were just discussing about this whole conspiracy and the people involved, like Elliot Brody, which is a Republican Party, someone in Republican Party that has some political connections within the party, also in Trump administration at the time, and Pras Michel, which is the
musician, rapper,
entertainer and stuff. And this is Pras Michel. It is George Higginbotham's client. So Higginbotham works for Pras Michel. Yes.
Oh. So to give everybody an idea, so Pras Michel, this rapper musician, was the contact of, for example, Joe Lo, right? Because Joe Lo, as we know, he actually, number one, he's the mastermind behind the 1MDB, right? The fraud scheme that stole billions of dollars, right, from the Malaysian people. And Pras Michel was his contact essentially into Hollywood. Okay, as we know, Joe Lo was actually behind the movie, right? The Wolf of Wall Street, for example. So he had a lot of contacts there. And because of the 1MDB, they had to get a lot of the money out into different places, right? Anyways, so George Higginbotham was somebody that worked with Pras Michel since 2003, so they had a long relationship. And then Joe Lo at the time was asking Pras Michel to say, hey, do you know anybody that can help, quote unquote, resolve this 1MDB issue? Because he's out of the country, out of the U.S., and he wants to get back into the country, right, into the U.S. just for his whatever personal reasons, okay, which was not I won't speak on it too much, but
right. So President Michelle, like Joe Lo, as you said, it's the mastermind of this Malaysian program that's been promoted by the Malaysia government. It's called 1MDB. Right, and then so he's the mastermind behind this embezzling, and at the time, so President Michelle was assisting Joe Lo, in 2017 for a few months, and there's a matter in front of DOJ. That's what he said, right? And then this Joe Lo needed an assistant attorney, U.S. attorney, so he went to President Michelle. That Joe Lo needs us influence political connections in U.S. In order to do the things he wanted to do, like
for
Jackson
example, because
explained.
he wanted to essentially, Joe Lo reached out to, I'm pretty sure, a lot of contacts, but through President Michelle is the connection that made and connected the dots with George Higginbotham, because he's worked for DOJ, he's an attorney, and and then guess what? He was flown out right to Hong Kong, went to Macau. That's where he actually met Joe Lo in person. They had dinner together to go over the quote unquote the ideas and the game plan and how they can move the money, into the U.S. for example. And we're talking about hundreds, like over $100 million.
Yes.
A lot of money.
First of all, he approached him and approached this witness Higginbotham and find an influence lawyer to assist Joe Lo. He suggested two firms, and he suggested Elliot Brody in 2017. It's a Republican Party. It's in charge of the vote fund, I believe, voting fund.
Well, so okay.
Yeah. And then Praz is introduced to Elliot at that time, and this opportunity aside, there's opportunity aside of 1MDB.
So outside of
anything?
Outside of the 1MDB, and through the one conversation led to another, another opportunity was presented to George Higginbotham, which was the effort to extradite and repatriate Mr. MILESGUO back to CCP, back to China, right? And so that's how the connection was made through George Higginbotham.
Yeah, they were in New York at the time, and President Michelle gave him the so-called, he said, it's a fantastic story, right? He says prisoner exchange, high-ticket items like planes to improve relations.
I'll just say this is that because the question was that what was the Chinese government willing to give or do for the extradition of Mr. MILESGUO, and that's he says to his understanding, which Feather was speaking on, is prisoner exchange, high-ticket items like planes. It was a very lucrative deal. So it sounded like, of course, Mr. MILESGUO being one of the most targeted, probably the highest. Right, the number one target of the CCP with their repatriation efforts. Especially
if it's a government offering these incentives, you can imagine how lucrative it could have been.
It came from very high levels.
Right, and also to some of the viewers who have watched Ava's show with the whistleblower, she has actually covered a lot of this information. So we actually won't go into much into detail in regards to some of the things mentioned, like 1MDB. I think she has already done a show in regards to this, and we have also talked a little bit about who George Higginbotham and the whole entire lobbying process as well, way more detailed by Ava. So it would have been nice to have Ava on, but believe me, we were going to try to arrange a episode for Ava to come on just to talk a little bit more about this, so we do have more clarity in regards to this repatriation efforts by the Chinese government of MILESGUO. So because this is one of the very main very center focused cases when we're talking about things like Operation Fox Hunt. And also this is where like pretty much everyone's found guilty. So
they all pled guilty.
They all pled guilty, right?
And something interesting I do want to point out is that it was asked in court because Scott from defense was the one that directed the
Scott was the one.
Scott on point, right? So Scott asked him, what happened after you landed in Hong Kong, because they want to describe, because here's the story. Okay, well, after you landed in Hong Kong,
first of all, he went to Hong Kong to meet Joe Lo. So so they had this meeting. So he went to the Hong Kong, then to Macau to advocate Elliot to Brody to Zhou Lo. This is what the meeting is for. So and then keep going.
But so what happened after he landed in Hong Kong was that Price was already there in a golf cart picking him up, and here's what happened is that the question was, did he go through customs? No.
Oh wow.
Okay, so the George Higginbotham didn't. When he landed in Hong Kong, he did not go through customs. Okay, did not go through immigration. His passport was not stamped to show that he actually was there.
Wow.
And his passport was taken.
There's no record of him being
So
there.
there's no record of him being
wow.
there.
And what year
did
they mention
bury
what year
this.
was this?
Yes.
2017.
Yes.
2017.
Yes.
Yes.
That's very
July
interesting.
2017.
That is very interesting because for in my opinion, for something like that to happen, there has been government support from the Hong Kong government
very high level.
to allow that to happen.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I think this can actually allow us to see the level of effort they actually went into to repatriate Miles, because I think to have someone move into a country that is and remain invisible on that front, I think
Undeclared.
Undeclared, right?
Just like the MSS, the 4 agents they talked about in court, the 4 MSS agents that was undeclared that came to the U.S. to essentially repatriate Mr. Miles, and who knows what else they were doing here.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's also the fact that these individuals who are part of the conspiracy, they were traveling overseas just to meet up with these individuals who are corrupted by the CCP or are essentially CCP members.
Yeah, and he was from there. They gave him a key to a very luxurious lodge, hotel, for example, and he was given a cell phone for communication. And when the CCP gives you a cell phone, right, there's definitely more than 1 year, let's just say, on the cell phone.
Right.
Right. So yeah.
So he stayed in Macau for 4 to 5 days. He had 2 meetings with Zhou Lo in total. So as you said, in the hotel, the reservation is not made under his name, and he was given a cell phone. So it's like very well protected and a secret meeting, private meeting with Zhou Lo. So at the first meeting, the restaurant, they didn't really talk about the extradition progress. They talk about the movement of money, the difficulty of the movement of money. That's the general subject matter. Because he was not allowed to talk about what he's been told to, or about someone else said to him. After he returned to U.S., and Zhou Lo continued to send his money. So previously, Zhou Lo was sending him around $10 million already in
10
US.
million?
Yeah, 10 million.
Wow.
That's before, to Perez Michel's account, the account that's under his name, right?
Yeah, and I'll give you guys an idea. Like, for example, we learned that in court that, and everybody can go to the transcript, right, for this information, is that Zhou Lo, because of the 1MDB, the fraud whole debacle, Perez Michel was actually the one that was overseeing a lot of the funds here in the U.S. that was coming in. And then, like what Feather was saying, there were funds moving in and out, and huge, we're talking about huge amounts of money that's come in. After he came back
From Macau trip meeting with Zhou Lo, he received 35 million euro, and that comes to 31 million US dollars.
Yeah. And they did it through an attorney escrow account.
Oh wow.
To move the funds to the U.S. Yeah.
And then he said in total, they received $100 million to have the successful for the successful fee of the extradition, right?
Well, it was like for 2 projects. One is to resolve the 1MDB effort. You see what I'm saying? So through the whole 1MDB, we're talking about billions of dollars have been stolen, embezzled. And they're trying to use the money that they have embezzled to then go, and $100 million to $1 billion is very minute, right? For example, so what they're really trying to do is take the money that they have stolen, quote unquote, embezzled, to then go, quote unquote, solve this problem of the 1MDB issue. So Zhou Lo can actually come back to the States. Okay, that goes to show you, right, how much even the criminals believe in the U.S. system to, quote unquote, protect themselves, right? And then the other project was to repatriate Mr. Miles.
So that's why he said I couldn't tell which part of money is for which project they're doing, but
money
the
was
total.
coming in.
but their total is just $100 million.
Yeah, but there was a lot of money that they were getting paid for the two tasks.
Yeah, and then before they were showing this series of stipulations by the defense, there was one question being raised that why, to your understanding, why do you think the Chinese government want Miles to be extradited? And of course, this question has been sustained. He cannot answer that question.
But that question would have been very, very interesting to say the least.
He could not even say his understanding of why the Chinese government want him back. But he did explain what extradition is in court. It's the U.S. U.S. government formally extradite, remove an individual to return to a country and a state that request to be returned. This is what it is. So that means, they're very straightforward explains to the jury that Miles is being requested to return to China by the CCP. The CCP. Yes. So that question wasn't being asked, but then they were showing stipulations, evidence that of a call transcript translation. So you have the call. It's a call recording, and then they put up in the Chinese, and then there's an English translation.
This is a call between who?
Between the Secretary Liu Yanping, and Mr. MILESGUO. Yeah. So it was basically warning MILESGUO on the phone that he offended too many people. And that he cannot tell his brothers about
4
this.
and 6.
Yeah, and then your wife and your daughter will be with you soon. You gotta just don't talk about this. That was after that all this happened, right? That was after the red notice. The
VOA.
That was after VOA.
That was shortly after, because at the time Miles's daughter and wife did not join him in U.S. yet, and then this is the call right before that, and he said, your immediate concern, it's your family, your employees, your business, your domestic enterprises, and then they were saying like, you gotta be careful what you say, you offend too many people. If you only offend your people, like he was saying, now you're in your 40s, you're in your year of no doubt in China. There's a word that means you're in your year of 40s, and you're soon to be the age of understand your fate. So you gotta understand what to do, otherwise there are gonna be serious consequences.
Essentially, the call was a warning to say, hey, you're saying too much. You're blowing the whistle, and it's at very high level. When we know Mr. Miles, right? And so like the officials essentially inside of the CCP are saying, okay, and so it was a bit of a warning. So we read over a lot of the transcripts. I personally really wish we were there to kind of like finish up with them to figure out to get the last bit of it.
Right, and I think that phone call was very interesting too, because it validates one thing, and it validates the fact that Miles is a whistleblower off the CCP.
Correct.
Because if he didn't whistleblow, then what would have made some people?
I mean, great point. Also, if the information that he was whistleblowing had no truth, why would the CCP officials be worried and stressed and in fear of the information that he has?
Or threaten him, right? Threaten his whole family, his
think
company.
Think about it like this. To the CCP, these are greedy people. If they're willing to pay so much money for the extradition of one man, that man has to have done something to hurt them. And that thing is to whistleblow against the CCP. Give away some of the secrets that they do not want to be out there, and that is why we, the NFSC, do what we do, because the world needs to hear more of exactly how evil the CCP is and what they have in plan. What they have been planning.
Yeah, I mean, $1 billion were spent on June 4th, 2020 to stop the June 4th, right? The birth of the NFSC. So you can imagine how much effort is being put into this whole process.
Right. So this is like the last part of his testimony.
Right, which is at 1 minute, so I think
you have this perfect time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he this is like the stipulation of this translation. The phone call is the last part of his. He didn't really testify anything. The lawyer Scott Shirk was just reading it, and then at the end of the phone call, then the at the end of the stipulation, he was saying, we're gonna move forward together. You're not allowed to discuss these two leaders. Don't discuss them on your show openly anymore. And then he gives like names of them, and you've been warned already. Your family's been threatened, and then Mao said, I hate them threatening my family and myself. I hate them for doing that. And then the secretary was like, it's like you punch someone and they kick you back, so you learn. Not to do so don't do it anymore. This is like the perfect to show the answer why China. So even though the question wasn't being asked, why Chinese government wants him back, but this is to show, this is to make the connection of why CCP want him back so bad.
Right, and it's to show the level of information he has whistleblow on. It's not a low level information, because he did mention the two leaders, right? So these are high level, high ranking individuals among the ranks of the CCP that he whistleblow on. So it's the fact that how top secret, how classified information that he has, and that he is revealing to the rest of the world, that creates a sense of urgency for the CCP to extradite him and put in so much effort. I think even until now, to get back at Miles for doing what he's done. And again, I think this is a great note to end off of, because I do know we still have the cross-examination to go through, but we will recap on the cross-examination, because as to my knowledge, the court is still going on today. Today should be ending at 5 p.m. and then tomorrow, I'm not sure what time they will end on, but let us see what happens tomorrow, because tomorrow is also going to be very interesting, because we will be discussing the both legal teams will be bringing their closing statements. So it is very interesting to see how they summarize all of the testimonies and some of the arguments they have been trying to make through these witnesses. So with that being said, thank you everyone for tuning in onto this show. We will be back tomorrow at 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, please just leave it in the description, and we will take a look and try to answer them tomorrow, because tomorrow should be fairly easy, because it's just two statements from the both legal teams. So we might have a little bit of time to do a little Q&A. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. God bless.